In this section of video, we're going to focus on adding elements to our heart using effects from our effect menu, as well as the rotate tool. So to start, I'm going to zoom in to the upper left-hand corner of our heart, and I'm going to get my ellipse tool. And you'll notice I have my color set to magenta as my fill color with no stroke. You can set those however you would like. And I'm going to I'm going to start drawing, and I'm going to hold down my shift key to make sure that I get a perfect circle. Now I'm going to choose my my selection tool. V is the hotkey for that, and I'm going to move that so it's kind of where I want it. And I'm going to go up to Effect in my menu bar, and I'm going to choose Distort and Transform, and then Zigzag from my effects menu. That's going to bring up a dialog box. I'm going to move it so that it's over here where we can see it real easily. And I'm going to click the preview button so I can see what this does. Now by default, mine has come up with this size of 0.14 inches and 4 ridges per segment. I don't necessarily want that set that way. And the first option we have is either relative or absolute size. If I choose relative, I'm going to have a percentage. If I choose absolute, I'm going to have a measurement. Either one works just fine. And the next thing I have is the number of ridges per segment. So the higher number is going to give you more of the effect, and the lower the number, the less of the effect you're going to have. The combination of ridges per segment and size is going to determine how much of this sort of spiky shape you get. And then the other thing we want to look at is what happens to the points. So the points are the spots where the effect is applied. And I can choose to either have sharp corners like we have right now, or smooth. And in this case I'm going to make it smooth. And I think I want to take the size of these up just a little bit more so that I have a little bit more of a starburst shape or a flower shape rather than sort of a bulgy squares, overlaying squares. I like right about there. And I'm going to click OK. And I think I'm going to go down to 2 ridges per segment and click OK. Now the next thing I want to do is come up to Object and choose this option called Expand Appearance. That's going to take my shape and convert it from a circle path with the zigzag applied and make it now instead the shape of the path will become the shape of that zigzag. So now I'm going to go back up to Object, and I'm going to choose Path, and I'm going to choose Offset Path, and I'm going to preview that, and it comes up, notice it comes up with my defaults, or with the settings I used last. In this case I think I'm going to set that down just a little bit. I want it, and no, it's just fine where it is. I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and I'm going to give this new path a little bit of a stroke so that we can see that there are 2 there. And now I'm going to move on to the next shape. The next shape I want to use, I'm going to go ahead and click off all of my paths. I know I don't have anything selected because I don't have a blue box next to my layer or next to any of the paths on the layer. So I'm just going to click off. Now I'm going to grab my ellipse tool again, and this time I'm going to make my ellipse white with no stroke. And I'm going to come in here and draw another circle. I'm going to hold down my shift key to draw that circle. And I'm going to kind of align it with that. It doesn't matter, I'll move it here again in a minute. And this time I'm going to choose Effect and Distort and Transform, and this time I'm going to use Pucker and Bloat. Pucker and Bloat is a similar tool, except that instead of adding zigzags, it's going to take the anchor points of this circle and either blow the curves out or suck them in. And I think I want something that's a little bit flower-like. I think I'm going to go right about there. Click OK. And I think I'm going to rotate this just a little bit. And I'm going to go edit, copy, edit, paste in front. And then I'm going to go object, transform, rotate, and I'm going to rotate this 45 degrees. And now I have this cute little flower shape that I think I really like. And on my layers panel, because I have two paths sitting right on top of each other, this will be easier to do in my layers panel. I'm going to select the first path, hold down the shift key and select the second path as well. And then I'm going to go object, transform. I want to make them a little smaller, so I'm going to scale them, and I'm going to choose 90% because I don't think they're that much too big, and I'm going to click OK. So now I have this little flower inside my starburst. And I'm going to make one more circle. This time I'm going to make it magenta again. And I'm going to set it right inside that flower. And you'll notice when I do that, it's right on top. But you know, I'm not totally sure it's in the right spot. So I'm going to just use my arrow keys to put it in the right place. Now the next thing I want to do is add some other graphics around the outside of this little starburst. So I think what I want to do is add some teardrop shapes. First thing I'm going to do is start by drawing a single circle. I'm going to do that with the ellipse tool and holding down my shift key. And one thing that we haven't really talked about is how can I take these items and get them all aligned. So the first thing I want to do is make sure that I have my little flower here all. I'm going to go to my layers palette and select all three components of my flower. I'm going to do that by clicking on the circle. And then I'm going to choose to make a group, object group. When I do that, all three of those paths show up in this little group. And then I'm going to choose all of these pieces, my bottom path, my next path above it, my flower, and my dot. And when I have those all selected, up in my options bar, I have an option that's a blue hyperlink option called Align. I'm going to go ahead and click that. And in the top section I can align the objects, and I want to align them horizontally on their vertically on their horizontal center. So I'm going to click that button, and now I know that they're all aligned on the same center point. I'll click off that panel. So now I'm going to click that top circle, and I'm going to do our object, transform, object path, offset path again. And I don't think I can go in anymore or that much, so I'm going to go 05 maybe. See what that looks like. Oh good, see I have that little path there. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And my inside path, I'm going to turn that one white. And I'm going to select those two paths. And the next thing I want to do is rotate them together around this circle. So what I'm going to do is use our rotate tool. The rotate tool lives in the toolbar in the third section of tools. It's 2 above our shape builder tool. The hotkey for it is the letter R. When I do that, I get this little crosshair that shows up in the middle of my selection. I'm going to click on that crosshair and then I'm going to move it down above my flower and let go, and now you'll see that little crosshair there. I'm going to hover over it again, and this time hold down my Option key or my Alt key on a PC, and I'm going to click on that circle not once but twice. And the second time I click on that circle, I'm going to get a dialog box called the Rotate dialog box. And this dialog box is going to allow me to rotate the items I've selected based on wherever I put those crosshairs. So I could leave them right in the middle and rotate them around themselves, but in this case, because I moved it to the middle of our starburst, it's going to rotate these circles around the starburst. So I know that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sections to my shape. So I know right there that if I was going to put one of these starburst in each of those shapes, I think I'll do that to start with, that I would need to rotate it by 60 degrees, because 60 degrees is 360 divided by 6. So I'm going to go ahead and not click the OK button, but click the Copy button. The Copy button will leave the original where it was and give me a copy. Now I can go up to my Object, Transform, Transform Again option, which is Control D on a PC or Command D on a Mac, and do that same thing over and over and over again, so that I now have those circles in each one of those little dips. Now I think those are really cool, but I think I'd also like some teardrop shapes. So I know that between this circle and this circle was 60 degrees, but now I want to come hover over my rotate tool again, hold down my Alt key, and click again. It's going to bring up that dialog box, and this time I'm going to enter 30 degrees and unclick the preview button and click the preview button again, and now I notice that puts it right above the little point of that starburst. So I'm going to go ahead and click Copy, and now I'm going to grab my white arrow tool, and I'm going to grab my white arrow tool so that I can come in here and click on this anchor point, the one that is on the lower left hand corner, and I'm going to click that anchor point. I'm going to click on the Convert to Corner tool, and then I'm just going to pull that anchor point right down so that it touches the corner of my starburst. So now I have this shape that is similar to the other, but it looks like it's connected. So I'm going to select those two paths again, grab my rotate tool again, pull that rotate tool right back down to the center of my flower, hold my Option key or my Alt key on a PC, click right on the center of it once, twice. That'll bring that tool back up, and I'm going to set it back to 60 degrees because that will give me my corners. And I'm going to go ahead and click Copy. And I'm going to use Command D on my PC or Mac, Control D on my PC, and repeat, 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 repeat. And now I have another cool shape to add to my circle here, my accent piece. Now the next thing I can do, and I probably should have done this when I started, I'm going to make a new layer so that I can select those pieces, the first thing I'm going to do is draw a little box over the top part of my heart here. And by doing that, it selects those 3 paths. And then I'm going to go Object, Lock, Selection. So now I can't select those. If I draw a box over them, nothing happens. In my Layers panel, I see down here that there's a lock beside those bottom 3 paths. Now I'm going to use that same selection tool and draw a box around my details here. And I'm going to take that little blue box and move it to this new layer. And now you'll notice that I have in my thumbnail there, let me make the thumbnail a little bigger. In my thumbnail there, now I can see just that detail. And in layer 1, I just have those 3 paths that we locked. I'm going to go ahead and unlock them. And now in layer 2, I have all the pieces that make up our detail here. The reason I did that is that I want to duplicate this layer. And then I'm going to zoom out using Window, Fit Artboard and Window. Also, I could use my Zoom tool. That allows me to zoom in or zoom out. I can zoom out by holding the Alt key, will allow me to zoom out just by clicking. Or I can use the dialog box down at the bottom. But I'm going to take that second layer, select it, hold my Shift key and move it hold my Shift key after I've started moving and move it to the other side of my heart so that we now have, oops, how did I do that? Thank goodness for undo. Select that heart. I'm going to go Object Group so that it all comes together. And I can even use the transform tools and just tell it to move over. I'm going to change the X position to 05. Oh, that wasn't quite enough. We'll go 6. And now I can just use my arrow key if I want to kind of move that into place. So that is the Rotate tool and Pucker and Bloat, tools that we can use to continue to add detail to our heart.